Hi everyone, it's Darcy Herring here, and again we're here Thursday at 11 for my Expert Live series. And today we have Kristen Lake coming. We're just waiting for her. Hopefully she'll sign on. She was online just a second ago, and I've always had no trouble being able to connect her. So when she comes on, we will just log in and she will tell us all about her wonderful tips and everything that she does and how she really helps families bring some peace and harmony into their lives. So I'm just waiting. Here she is. All right, let's see. I'm going to bring her on camera right now. Let me just... This is awesome. Hello, everyone. I see more people joining us. I see Kristen.
Hello. Hi, how's it going?
Hello.
I used my phone because I knew that the computer had issues for the last couple calls. So I was like, I'm just going to be proactive and just go ahead and use my phone.
That is perfect.
Oh,
Thank you for that.
you're
Because that was
welcome.
very easy. I clicked the button and there you were.
Awesome.
So how's everything going today? Good?
Things are pretty good. Yeah. I just dropped the kids off at school, came home, did a little bit of cleaning, and here I am.
That's awesome. So let's start. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Cool. I am an NLP practitioner, and I am also certified in the quantum change process. What I do is help men, women, families to get rid of anything that is causing them any sort of stress in their lives, anything that's keeping them stuck from doing what they really want to do in life.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people that have stress over whether it's finances or family or really much. There's a lot of stress out there these days. So that's so super awesome.
Yeah.
So specifically with regards to families, how do you find that brings more peace and harmony into a family's dynamic or a family's everyday life?
Well, I help families communicate with each other. I've done work with couples, strengthening their relationships. I've done individual work with people one-on-one, but I find that the most important thing we can do to help each other is to help ourselves first. And if we're not helping ourselves, it's, it's kind of redundant, right? Because you can't, you don't have the energy to do it, right? So got to make sure that you're helping yourself, cleaning up your own past and dealing with all of that stuff so you can give as much as possible, coming from the right place, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Because me being a parent, I know when I'm feeling overwhelmed and stressed, and the kids come at me with something, it could be something super small, it turns into much bigger. And I take
Yeah.
that as okay, I need to step back. It's not about the spill on the floor. It's not about your homework not being done. This is about me, and I need to take a minute. And then we can readdress. So that's super awesome that you go right to the person and manage their stress and their stuckness. That's super awesome. So do
Yeah,
you
and
have
I
some...
think that, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
think though by doing that and recognizing what our own patterns are and where that stress and anger is coming from, then we have the self-awareness to be able to stop and say, okay, no, why am I really stressed right now? And what's actually happening here, right? Okay, I'm really stressed because I've got this going on in my day and that going on, and I'm thinking ahead to something that hasn't even happened yet, but it's affecting my energy in the moment instead of being present in what I should be doing.
Oh, yeah. And that happens all the time, I'm sure, in many people's lives where they're looking ahead. Okay, I have to pick up the kids and then we need to bring them here. Then I have to get dinner done. And then they come at you with something and it just throws your thought process, your routine, and everything. And you just get overwhelmed. So that
Yeah,
awareness piece is so key. That's so awesome.
totally.
Do you have some tips for us today?
I do. I wanted to talk a bit about boundaries and communication within a family and how important that is. Boundaries are basically, people sometimes get the wrong idea of what a boundary actually is when we're talking about it. And for a lot of the people pleasers out there, sometimes the word boundaries can sound mean. So it sounds like you're putting in this, boundaries basically, when you go down to the base of it, are what's okay with you and what's not okay. So for example, um, the best example I could think of when I was trying to think of this earlier is, well, a good example would be if somebody were to comment on your weight. right? So somebody within the family, it could be mom saying this to kids, wife saying it to husband, whoever it is. When you're making those comments and the other person is not feeling very good about it, it's up to that person to turn around and say, you know what, when you say that I look like I've gained a few pounds, for example, that doesn't make me feel very good. And I think where people get confused with the boundaries and it sounding mean is because you could say that in a completely different tone and it could come off differently, right? Like, how dare you call me fat or whatever, rather than coming at it in a loving way of saying, like, how could somebody be mad at me if I just said, you know what, when you just said, repeat right back what they said, that made me feel sad. That made me feel insecure. That, and I really don't want to go through my life feeling those ways when I'm around you. So, is it possible for you to stop doing that? And then with boundaries, what ends up happening is that because it's usually habit for the other person, if this is something regularly that they might do it another time. And you might have to go back and say, you remember when we had this conversation before? And I said that doesn't make me feel very good. When you say da 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 da, I'd like to ask you again, can you please not do that? So boundaries come up in a bunch of different ways, even with kids, right? And it's important to teach kids boundaries and show them that you have boundaries and that you're putting those in for other people in your life because you want them to be able to go, say, to school or when they're hanging out with their friends and for them to be able to put those boundaries in with their friends rather than them getting all walked on or bullied or whatever else that is, right? That could cause stress within the family.
Oh, absolutely. It's very key when they go to school and they're able to mimic or mirror what parents put in place. I know one example of a boundary is often at family gatherings when parents are always, oh, go hug your great aunt twice removed that you haven't seen in 3 years, and the kids are putting up a fuss and the parents are getting upset thinking, oh my gosh, they're not going to hug them, they're going to be disrespectful. But that's a boundary that that child is trying to put up is, I don't know this person, I don't really want to touch them.
Mm-hmm.
So being okay as a parent with that boundary that the child is putting up and not teaching them to be disrespectful, but wave, say hi, but you
Right.
don't need to be touched by them if you're uncomfortable in that situation, right?
Yeah,
That's
and
a
leaving the
great,
doors open for those kids to be able to have those conversations with you, right? And to
yeah.
say, listen, mom, that's your aunt. I don't really know her, right?
Yep.
And maybe you feel comfortable doing that, but I don't. And then, so depending on the age of the kids, obviously that might show up a little bit differently. It might show up
Yes.
as a 2-year-old crying and having a quote unquote tantrum, whereas a kid that's maybe over the age of reason, 7, 8, 9, 10, they could actually vocalize that and say that if we have provided the opportunity for them to be able to do that. Otherwise, it could show up in a multitude of different ways, through stress, through anxiety. But we want to avoid that as much as possible. So it's so important to keep those open lines of communication there and be modeling for them what we want them to do, right? If we're not showing that to them, how can they do that?
Right. Absolutely. It's so very true. That's a
Mhm.
great tip. Do you have any others?
I'm sure I could go on for days, Darcy, but but yeah, I know we don't have a long window of time here, but I think I'll just leave it at that for now.
Okay, awesome. Do you have, how can people get in touch with you if they're interested in learning more about getting really personal with their stuff and getting past that?
I have a website. It's Kristen Lake, KristenLake.com, or you can find me on Facebook. I'm listed as Kristen Lake NLP practitioner. Um, Yeah, and I have an event coming up November 29th and 30th in Whitby with my friend Kelsey Van Roon. We're hosting Awaken Your True Self. It's 2 days of education and learning about basically everything I've talked about here and more communication skills, all of that, digging down to the reasons why we aren't living as our true authentic selves or how we can do that a little bit better.
Oh, that sounds awesome. I know Kelsey did mention it when she was on before. So that's super awesome. That's the 29th and the 30th of
Yeah,
November.
yeah, it's a Thursday, Friday. So it's in the middle of the week, which works for a lot of entrepreneurs. So that's if you're an entrepreneur and you can take Thursday, Friday off, or if you're not, and you want to take 2 days off work, then there we are.
Yeah, absolutely. So much, sometimes so much easier than trying to fit it onto a weekend when you got the kids to juggle and that stuff. But
Right.
that's a great opportunity for people to participate in. And how can they, is there an event online that they can reach
Yeah,
to find out more?
if they went on my Facebook page, it's on there. So Kristen, I believe my Facebook page, the link is facebook.com// Kristen Lake Coaching. And then I have the link on there for the Eventbrite link where you can buy tickets. And there's actually a $100 off code. So if somebody wants to see
Ooh.
that, that's within the link and everything too.
Oh, that is so awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Kristen. That was a great tip about boundaries, which I think are very important, and not everyone uses them to their full advantage these days. And we tend to, like you said, people pleasers, try and say yes to everyone, including our kids and our husband and our sisters and our brothers and our parents and all those people. And often we get lost in that shuffle of saying yes. So awesome tip about boundaries. Thank you so much for being here. And
You're
thank you for
welcome.
everyone online. We've got lots of people watching. So some new people today, which is super duper awesome. If you missed the beginning, feel free to go back and listen, find out what Kristen actually does, and stay tuned later today for the announcement of who's coming up next week. So thanks,
Yay!
Kristen. Thank you,
All right, thanks,
everyone,
Darcy.
and we will see you guys next Thursday.
All right,
Bye.
thanks for watching, everyone. Bye.
Bye.